Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Rest is Football. I'm Gary Lineker. Unfortunately, there's no alanshearer today. He's a bit busy. But the big news is that Big Meeks is back from Big Vegas, or even Las Vegas. Micah was out in the US for a few days working for CBS around the Super Bowl. And finally, it's time for us to hear all about it. I think the reason Alan's not on today, Micah, is I'm not sure he could cope.
It couldn't cope.
How was it?
Honest to God, it was incredible. First, I want to talk about the weather. The weather was not great. So normally when you go to Vegas, it's normally 30, 40 degrees, pool parties.
Micah, let me interrupt you. No one gives a fuck about what the weather was like, okay? Get on with it.
No one cares about the weather. So, like you said, we was over there for the Super Bowl, and we had a couple of media days to do before the Super Bowl, and I can honestly say it is the best day of my life. It was. In terms of
you won the Premier League in the 93rd minute.
Not football related. I mean lifestyle related.
Lifestyle. Yeah.
Lifestyle. It's all about a lifestyle, guys. And you look.
I hope your child doesn't hear this when he gets older.
We had Ariana Grande to our left. We're walking through. So like. I don't know much about...
Is that one of the canyons in that area, Ariana Grande? That is a joke. I do know who Ariana Grande is.
You said it, not me, guys. And then, like, everyone is there in Vegas. And it's weird because we were, obviously, in England, we're 8 hours in front and they're behind. And the first day, I didn't go to bed till about 6 o'clock, which would have been... I was waking up at like midday in Vegas. And I'm with Thierry Henry, I'm with Kate Abdo, I'm with the producers and all that sort of thing. And like... Everyone knows what Big Meeks is like. I like to get in a little bit of trouble every now and then.
Does Ariana Grande know what Big Meeks is like? Or she does now?
I'm not claiming Grande, no.
Okay.
I'm not claiming Grande. And I just thought to myself, what do I do here, Gaz? Do I keep it professional and stay in? Or do I go for a little one?
No, you don't.
So it's about 12:30. It gets to about 1 o'clock in the morning. I go for a little wander, don't I? Down the strip. We're staying in the Virgin Hotels.
Appropriately named.
One of my old mates is staying at the Wynn. So I go there, have a few drinks. You can let your imagination run for itself. It's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking to myself, we've got media at 11 o'clock.
Oh God!
What do I do here?
Yeah.
I mean, when I say we've got media, it's only light stuff, you know. We're talking about the Champions League, promoting that, and then the Super Bowl, and then we went to a place.
Micah, can I just interject slightly because my glasses have really steamed up. Right, look, honestly.
It's getting all hot. It's getting all hot here.
Go on, carry on.
We went to a place. I'm not naming no places, but wowzers.
Wowzers in what way, Mike?
Wowzers. Gary, you don't mean to spell it out for you.
I do.
Wowzers. The scenery was like never, ever before. Oh my God. So bear in mind, we've got to do media in the morning and everyone thinks I've gone to sleep. And you know Big Meeks is not going to sleep at that time. So like when we get in the morning and everyone's like, oh, how was your night? And this, that, did you have a good sleep? And I'm like, To be honest, yeah. I mean, I went to sleep really early. I couldn't really find nothing to do. I went downstairs and got a drink, and they all think I stayed in.
Really?
But they don't know I had one of the best nights.
They do now, Micah. They do now.
And everyone thought I had jet lag. It had nothing to do with jet lag. It's because I was out till 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh my God. God bless America. That's all I
Oh, God. Fantastic. And tell us about the actual Super Bowl as well, because what's it like? It's the first time you'd ever been, isn't it? I've never been. It's on my bucket list, actually. Something to actually go to. It looks, it's an extraordinary event. It's an event as much as a sporting contest.
No, I think we so the way we look at American sports is they do everything grand and big, and we've talked about sort of halftime shows before, and they've sort of tried to do some similar sort of thing in the Champions League final and get the entertainment going. But we've got a long way to go before we get that entertainment. The
Good.
Super Bowl, so... but honestly, guys, you go there and CBS are hosting it. So how it works in America, you'll probably know better than me, but each station gets a year to host it. So CBS won't get it for another 4 years. They invited all the talent out. Shout out CBS for that. And we was in a box. We was with all sorts of superstars. Queen Latifah was my favourite. Do you remember Queen Latifah?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was in my box. I got a little picture with her. And there was Ariana Grande to the left and all the stars you could think of. But then you're watching the game with all these people, but then the halftime show with Usher was absolutely incredible.
I have to say I was slightly disappointed in Usher's show, only in the sense that I honestly thought at some point popping up behind him would be Big Meeks giving it, "We'll buy any car, we'll buy any car."
To sell my car, do we buy any car? But honestly, guys, you have to do it because I know it was in Vegas this time, but it's got something for everybody. It was absolutely terrific trip. But I want to end with, on the obviously Kansas City Chiefs won it, for those who don't know or don't really watch it. But then on their parade yesterday, I don't know if he was going to do that, guys, but there was a shooting.
Oh, no.
On the parade, and someone has died. So I just want to say hats out to the families and everyone who's seen that, because it was a horrific incident that was spoiled by winning the Super Bowl just a couple of days earlier. So yeah, devastating news.
Yeah, awful. That is, awful. I mean, it's not a rare occurrence in America, shootings, that's for sure. But overall, I'm glad you had a great time. Do you want to talk about real football, the one where you use your feet? Because obviously you also would have been covering the Champions League. I watched City on Tuesday. I watched Bayern Munich last night, and then obviously saw the highlights of both the other games. I thought Manchester City were pretty imperious, so good. Yeah,
we've sort of been talking about Manchester City, and when Kevin De Bruyne comes back into the team, is Foden going to really be able to show the form and when Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland without the team? But I thought even on the right, we know he's the best in central. We've spoken about this many times, but could he have the same impact from the right? And he did. And that was more satisfying to me than anything, because you've played with some great players, guys, and sometimes you was always the greatest player, but for, say, someone just underneath you, you always took their shine because you were the best at what you did. And sometimes I always felt like with Foden, he played a little bit within himself when Kevin De Bruyne was around, but it was great to see them both, like the interchanging, scoring, assisting. And the overall performance was just majestic, wasn't it? Away from home. Wow.
Absolutely bossed it. I know Copenhagen haven't played for a couple of months, and then they're not one of the strongest teams in the competition. But that aside, I totally agree with you about Phil Foden. I think he continues to improve as a player. I mean, he's sharp. His work rate as well is underestimated, and I think we have to probably thank Pep Guardiola for that, because of the nature of the way he plays football and the fact that you have to win the ball. If you lose it, you have to win it back as quickly as you possibly can, high up the pitch as well. His energy levels, I think, are extraordinary. He plays game after game. He very, very, very rarely gets injured, and I don't want to jinx it with that, so we'll do that touchwood thing, which is obviously a nonsense. But so fingers crossed he'll stay fit. But whatever position he plays in is impactful. And he was again on Tuesday night. I agree with you. His best position is just behind that front man as a 10, and he's quick, he's sharp, his decision making, his bits of skill, and he goes past players. It's a different kind of footballer to Kevin De Bruyne, but they have so much kind of freedom of movement, though, don't they? The players anyway. So even if he is on the right, he's not like he sticks out there. I think Pep's football's probably evolved from that as well. It used to be that two wide players played wide. Now they changed a little bit. And I mean, when you've got like De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo Silva just all flicking around there, it's like, I mean, imagine playing against that. You'd be befuddled. And then, of course, pulling all the strings just behind them, Rodri, who's just a perfect kind of holding midfield player, isn't he? In Sonio, he's brilliant off the ball, exceptional on the ball, and he just manages everything from on the field a little bit, probably like Pep did when he played. He was that kind of player as well. Busquets, that same sort of player, those great players in that particular role. Xabi Alonso is now going on to management. They're kind of the cerebral footballers, aren't they? The ones that you need in any great side. I would suggest. But yeah, I mean, let's look at the competition overall at the moment. I was going to come to this later, but I'm going to come to it now because it's quite interesting, Micah, because I think it's hard to envisage anyone really beating City in this competition. I don't feel it's probably the best Champions League. It might produce some great games, and there are still some cracking teams in it, but I don't think overall it's probably the strongest ever. For example, I've got a list of some of the teams in it here. RB Leipzig, 5th in the Bundesliga. Copenhagen, 3rd in the Danish League. Lazio, 8th in Serie A. Real Sociedad, 7th in La Liga. Atletico Madrid, 4th in La Liga. Borussia Dortmund, 4th in Bundesliga. FC Porto, 3rd in Primera Liga. Arsenal are 3rd in the Premier League. Napoli are 9th in Serie A. And Barcelona are 3rd in La Liga. So the form sides, the best sides in Europe, are not all in the competition, I would say, apart from Manchester City. I don't even think that Real Madrid are that absolute anything like as strong as they probably were a few years ago, even though I think they'll probably improve, and Bellingham was injured the other night. But Leverkusen, of course, as well, the team are flying in Germany, are in the Europa League. So it's hard to look past City, isn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with all what you've just said, Gary. I think it all depends now as well, the next round of the draw. So do you remember last year where Inter Milan got to the final, but if you look at that side of the draw, there was favourable fixtures for them to get there?
I think Inter actually, I mean, I'm not a gambling man, but so I don't have a bet, but Inter at 14-1 this morning. I think that's a good bet, given if they could avoid Manchester City and possibly someone like Real Madrid, then they could do what they did last year and go a long way. So perhaps a bit of value for money for everyone there. Not that I would ever encourage anyone to bet, because I'm not really a lover of gambling. So, but yeah, interesting price for them. And I should have mentioned actually Liverpool in the Europa League along with Leverkusen as well, which would have been a side that would have had a great chance in the Champions League had they have qualified.
Yeah, totally agree with that as well. It's strange at this moment because there's so many games, and there's like you're trying to keep up, we're trying to keep everyone fit, and then I agree with the Inter Milan shout, because last year in the final against City, there was chances that they should have really taken. Man City was going into that competition with a lot of pressure. Everyone was saying, well, you can't be a big club unless you've won the Champions League. So it's almost like City at times looked a little bit nervous. Rodri gets the goal and it's a massive weight off their shoulders. I think this season, City will play with a little bit more freedom, and the fact, like you've just said, the quality seems to be a little bit down at this stage of the season. If you look at someone like a Bayern Munich, who you mentioned earlier, I was watching Bayern Munich and thinking, they've got some absolute world-class players on that side, but they're not playing as a unit, as a team, not dropping together, not attacking together, dribbling at the wrong times. And I wouldn't like to use the word selfish, but just they're not gelling like they would like at this moment in time. And that could change in the second leg. But yeah, I was disappointed to see them to lose last night.
I still think they're probably likely to go through, given home advantage in the second leg. But you know, Lazio have certainly given them a chance. They were poor at the weekend as well against Leverkusen, and I think they had like one shot on target in the two games or something. Interesting stat as well that Nagelsmann, when he was in charge, don't forget he got fired for Thomas Tuchel. Nagelsmann lost 10 games in 84 before he was sacked. Tuchel has lost the same in just 43 games. So, I mean, they don't seem to mess about too much at Bayern Munich, but it'll be interesting to see whether he's under pressure. He actually responded, didn't he, to the press in midweek before they actually played last night, when they said, you know, you're under pressure. He said, yeah, but that's what football's about. You got to want that pressure and enjoy that pressure. That's part of the game. So, I mean, we keep talking about Harry Kane, and he's not really had much of a sniff in the last two games. And you're smiling there, Micah, again. I sense that you're smiling because of the comments you've made this season that Tottenham are better without Harry Kane, and Bayern Munich might be worse with Harry Kane. It's so grossly unfair, Micah.
Can we just put this straight, though? Because everyone thinks I've got like a problem with Harry Kane. I absolutely love Harry Kane. I just said, let me get the quotes correct. The rest of the players take more responsibility when Harry Kane's not there. It showed when he was injured before. They become a little bit more dynamic. Everything doesn't go through Harry Kane. And the quicker on the counter-attack. Those are my words. As for what's happening at Bayern Munich, now, if they go out the Champions League and don't win the league, it might end up with no trophy, which is what's a good word? Uncomprehensible. Is that a word?
Incomprehensible.
I was nearly there, guy. Incomprehensible.
Close, but no cigar. You had those. I bet you had those in Vegas, didn't you? Big la-di-da.
La-di-da. Had a few of those, of course I did. But yeah, he scored 30 goals. So, you know, when we're talking about Harry Kane, it is all tongue-in-cheek. But there is parts of the build-up at times where he is starting to come deep and get a little bit frustrated because he wants to be involved in the play. Whereas a striker like you guys, you're happy to stay within the area and make the runs and trust your teammates to provide for you. He doesn't need to do everything.
Micah, in his defence, were very different players. And he can do things dropping deep, and his range of passing, for example, is way better than mine. So therefore, he's playing to his strengths. Now, the one weakness in Harry Kane, that's pretty unfair to say weakness, is the one thing where he probably lacks slightly, that's probably a better way of putting it, is that he does lack a little bit of pace. He's not the quickest player in the world. Whereas I was very quick. So my strength was my pace and my pace of thought. I would brag a little bit because I, understood how to score goals and attack space and that sort of thing. But his strength. Sorry.
Harry what he just said? Bullshit.
So Harry's strengths really are not just being in the box like I was, like making runs and stuff. He's got more to his game than me. No question about that. So I understand why he does that. But when you've got a player that does that, then you need players to run past him, don't you? You really do need that. Otherwise, particularly on the counter-attack and stuff. And I suppose it's a conundrum that Gareth will have as well, you know, whether you also can't really have a dynamic press with Harry. I think you can have a reasonable one, but you really need to keep him quite high for that. So, you know, there are interesting aspects to his overall game. Do you feel, I mean, I didn't win too many trophies, and would it have made any difference to me in terms of, you know, people talk about your legacy when you finish and all that, but I just think you give people pleasure or you don't. You give people joy or you don't. And I think whether Harry Kane wins a bloody trophy or not, he has given so many football fans so much joy, so much pleasure, so many wonderful moments that I mean, people will always say it, but I mean, and it will matter to him and he'll want to win a trophy because it's kind of a big thing. But does it make you any less of a player?
It doesn't make you any less of a player, but accolades matter. You get into this game to win. We want to win. Of course, as being players at big teams, lesser players win a load of things, and they know deep down in their heart they didn't play a great part in, you know, being the ones who brought the cup or whatever it was home. But then there's someone like Harry Kane who is incredible footballer who deserves to win titles, and he will win titles. This season, maybe not, but next year at Bayern, they'll get it sorted. And if they don't win it this, and the league's not, it's only 5 points. He can bring it back, can't he?
I'm sure he will win a trophy or two. I mean, don't forget, you know, Alan didn't win much. I didn't win that much. But, you know, do we lose sleep about it? No, but I know what you mean with, of course, he wants to win. What I'm saying, it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect my viewing on him as a footballer.
Yeah, but you played in a time where playing for your country was seen as the ultimate number one. Like, you scored more goals, like, for your country.
It still is, Micah. It still is.
No, but for some players, they love the Champions League and the Premier League. It's always the greatest moment to make your first cap. But there's some players who just prefer the Champions League and the Premier League, or you know,
because you're more in your comfort zone. It's easier because you've not got to suddenly you're going away from your familiar surroundings. And
yes, exactly.
And don't forget the enormous pressure of playing and representing your country at a major tournament, because it matters so much to the mood of the nation. Whereas when it's your club, obviously, it matters to the mood of your supporters and it matters to the mood of yourself. But you get another chance 3 or 4 days later if you lose. You know, you're playing a European Championship or a World Cup. You lose a last 16, you lose a quarter-final, that's it, you're out. You don't get another chance. This pressure is greater. The expectancy is greater and it means more. Now, some players are more comfortable playing the Champions League and the Premier League, probably because the pressure isn't quite as great. It's still great. I don't know. I'm just making an argument here, but I don't think that's changed. I think the majority of the players, I think the absolute highest thing that you could possibly do is perform brilliantly and win something. I'll go back to your point on that, and win something for your country. We've not done that in our country for an awfully long time. And if Harry Kane lifts the European Championship in the summer, and England will be one of the favourites, no question about that. They'll have a good chance. And at some point, they're going to get a couple of lucky breaks in the tournament that perhaps they've not necessarily had at key moments. And that will happen. And I'd take that trophy again over all the others. It would mean way more than winning a Champions League or a Premier League or a Bundesliga or a German Cup or an FA Cup. It would be extraordinary.
I'd probably agree with you if you won a Euros or a World Cup. But if you're going into the team and you're Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, the level of that player, Premier League, Champions League, amazing. But if you know you're going away with your country and you're not a starter, yes, it's amazing if you a starter and you win. But if you're in and out, you don't have the same feeling.
I get that, but that's kind of a different point. That is a different point. It's almost like saying, would you prefer to be a journeyman player in a really great side and win loads of trophies, or be someone like a superstar like Harry Kane that he's not quite played in teams that have been quite good enough to win any trophies? Which one would you take?
It should have waited. We talked about the move, didn't we? And you and Alan said it was a great move. I would say it's an amazing move because of the size of the club. But if you're going to leave Spurs and you could potentially go on a free contract, you've got to go to Real Madrid or Man City just because of where they were headed. And I'm not saying it's a mistake.
Well, Bayern Munich is a truly great football club that wins the league every single year.
Yeah, but I mean, would you rather go to Spain?
Yeah, but these are different points. You didn't answer my question. Would you sooner be?
I'll answer your question.
Would you sooner be a good player in a great team that wins lots of trophies, or a great player that's not quite played in the best team and not won any trophies?
But when you say a good player, how good we talking?
You'd have to be good to be in. Like, take some, I don't know, players that played perhaps in a Manchester United side that won loads of titles.
Okay, O'Shea. Take O'Shea or Fletcher.
Yeah, an O'Shea that wins loads and loads of trophies. Very good footballer, but not a great. Or a great footballer like Harry Kane and not win trophies. I'd sooner be Harry Kane. I'm sorry, but I sort of was, I suppose, in a way. I won a few trophies, but
yeah, but I think that's. I don't know, because that's what you and Alan.
That's why I'm asking you, Micah. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, you and Alan and Harry Kane are incredible individual. You've done everything in the game, but I'd rather have 10 Premier Leagues in my back pocket. That's fine.
You've answered the question. Totally respect your answer, and it's an interesting question, though, isn't it?
No, because it is debate. Would I rather be you or O'Shea? Of course, I would be you, or maybe not you. Would I rather?
Someone good.
Because you've still won things. Really, you've won things at this moment in time. Harry Kane's not won anything at this moment in time. If the career's ended now,
yes.
And O'Shea, he played a good part. I remember some of the goals. I would rather have the 10 or 8 or Premier League medals or whatever he's got.
Fair enough. I like that. It's good. You got off the fence, got off the career, off your arse for that one. Eventually, we got there in the end. Just one more wafer thin mint. You don't know what I mean by that, do you? The character called Mr. Creosote in the Monty Python movie, The Meaning of Life, where he's eaten so much he's about to burst, and he says, "You want one more wafer thin mint, Mr. Creosote?" We've talked about Lazio, Bayern Munich. I want to talk about Real Madrid. I don't think it's probably as I said in the first half, the greatest Real Madrid team at the moment. I think it's improving. It's massively improved with Jude Bellingham coming in, but he had an ankle injury. He didn't play the other night, but they ground out a win. They weren't brilliant though, and actually they're quite lucky not to be behind at half time. Benjamin Sesko could have probably had a hat trick, but missed his chances with a bit of great goalkeeping as well. So yeah, they've got a way to go, but when you've got Vinicius Junior, Bellingham and Rodrigo, to name but three, you've always got a chance in this competition, right, Micah?
Yeah, exactly that. I think we was all gutted when we heard the news that Bellingham was out. Looked like it was an ankle, I believe the report said. And it was a former City man, wasn't it?
Yes.
Brahim Diaz.
That's right. Hell of a goal.
It was a brilliant goal. It was weird how they just manage to, the low sense of gravity. Like, it's the way they move so quick, and for a defender, it's so hard to play against that. You think you've got them, and that is a difference, like the agility that they can move and at the pace that they can move at. So a defender, like, once you think you've got them and they move, it's pretty much impossible to stop. And then the finish to go with it was outstanding.
Do you know what I liked almost as much as the finish and the dribbling was the fact on 3 occasions he was contacted by defenders 3 times, and each time he could easily have gone down and got a free kick, which is what you normally get nowadays. But each time he fought to stay on his feet, almost like Messi. That's one of the great things of Messi's career, the amount of times that they tried to bring him down. But he didn't want to dive. He just wants to stay on his feet, and he wants to beat people. And that's what he did. And got his reward by finishing off. I just wished that we'd see more of that in the game. Jude Bellingham didn't play. I've already said that, and he's going to be a miss for them. And it's already got to the stage, hasn't it? Now where he's only been there a few months, and you go, Madrid's best player's out. Although Vinicius Junior, you could argue, is right. Those two, either one of those is missing. You're missing their star men.
It's just his mentality that impresses me the most, Gary. I mean, we've all talked about, when you've had to leave home and all that sort of thing, but to constantly keep doing it with the pressure. And that's why I give England a chance in the Euros this summer, because when you need someone, if they're fully fit, to just play through that pressure and embrace it, and that is the difference. Sometimes some players go within their shell, where from you take Zidane's number 5, you play in a more advanced position, which is a number 10. You go to the Madrid fans and you put both arms in the air like the fans are addressing the Messiah. And he takes it all in his stride, speaks so well in the interviews, level-headed. And sometimes we're always a little bit nervous of building players up. And it's happened over the years. It's happened to me even. And we've talked about that before on the last podcast, where it's been too much. But with Bellingham, it's actually not too much. He deserves all the accolades he's getting. And I just think it's great to see, really is.
I always think that the great players, they do things when it really, really matters. They'll suddenly, when you're really struggling, they'll make something happen out of the blue, some piece of magic, something to turn the game around. And he does that, doesn't he? He grabs the game by the scruff of the neck and just throws it. And I just think he's extraordinary. Barring injuries and stuff like that. And his mindset, his mentality, Cruz called him, didn't he? A mentality monster.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for Real Madrid, and it's most certainly exciting for England as well. And talking about those kind of players, let's switch our attention to PSG. Kylian Mbappé scored again. A game when the game wasn't brilliant. They were on top. It wasn't the best goal ever, but he made it happen again. Kylian Mbappé, a genuine superstar. You saw him in the World Cup final, didn't you? Even though in the end they didn't win, but boy did he play his part, scoring a hat-trick in a World Cup final. I know 2 of them were penalties, but even that you've got to stand up and deliver. I mean, he's extraordinary, and I think, if you're talking about the best players in the world, we've just mentioned a couple of Bellingham and Vinicius Junior, but I think probably Mbappe's number 1 at the moment. Now that Ronaldo and Messi, of course, have kind of gone into the sunset of the twilight of their career.
Yeah, I totally agree. I said yesterday when I was doing Champions League, or the day before, yesterday, I think he's the most complete. So if you look at someone like Kevin De Bruyne, so like you've got Haaland, who's a super finisher in the box, he will score.
Yeah.
You've got Kevin De Bruyne, who can score, assist, he can play deeper, he can play more offensive, he can slide balls through. I think Kevin De Bruyne is probably the most complete midfielder. Mm-hmm. But Mbappé, he's the most complete forward in my... Kane's up there in terms of link-up play and passing and scoring. But Mbappé can change, he can turn a game on its head. Give him the ball, whether he's up front as a number 9, where he's playing on the left, his skill, his first touch, he scores at the right moments. I just think he's the most complete in that position in the world. He'd be my number 1 player in the world, without doubt.
It would be mine as well at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, 44 goals and 26 assists in 68 Champions League games. And
it's ridiculous. And you know what annoys me about it? When people talk about, he's playing in the Farmers League. He does it in the Champions League. He does it in, like, the World Cup final. What more do you want from him?
That Farmers League nonsense is always irritating. I mean, they're the top 5 leagues in Europe, and it's just thrown out there by people that don't really understand the game that much, And don't forget, if you're also playing in a league that's probably not, well, it's not as strong as the Premier League, and is not quite as strong probably as a Bundesliga or Italian league or even the Spanish league. But it's still a very strong league. But if you're playing in that league and you are the superstar in that league, every team that you play against, his mindset is basically how to stop Kylian Mbappé. Therefore, that becomes increasingly more difficult. It's like teams that, defend against Manchester City all the time, and therefore it's really difficult for Haaland. So it makes it harder. If you're playing against the best teams all the time, that's sometimes for a forward easier because you're not going to have to play against that constant low block or people doubling or tripling up on you. So it's actually, in a way, it might be more difficult.
Agreed. It's a good point.
I do make the occasional one. Just to put it in some kind of perspective, for players of the age of 25 or under, he's now second in the all-time list of players that have scored goals in the Champions League. I suspect Haaland will probably catch up at some point. But you've got Messi with 59. He had 59 goals at the age of 25. Kylian Mbappé is now second with 44. And Raul just behind with 43. So he's...
extraordinary.
Yeah, I just love watching him play as well. That stop-start acceleration that he does with the ball at his feet. And
he's the best to watch. He's dying. I'm so gutted that he's not coming to the Premier League. With the likes of, even before like a Grealish came or a Doku came, I was thinking, if you just want one on that side, I know it was going to cost a lot of money, but just monitor the situation. Now he's going to somewhere for free. You're getting Kylian Mbappé for a free
May I say, Micah, that he won't be going for free. He will cost an awful lot of money, but he's a very, very bright, clever lad. And it's one thing I don't understand too much about players nowadays, particularly the top players, why they don't just go somewhere and see your contract out. And then the club that are getting you don't have to pay a fee, therefore you'll get massively more money. I mean, they earn fortunes anyway, and Mbappé will do, but it just makes sense nowadays. And people say, yeah, the risk of injury, but I'm sure you can insure against those. Well, you can insure against those sort of things. So I just think he's been smart, very smart, and now's the time. I think he should go in the summer. I think it's time. I mean, he's done an amazing service to PSG. And, the fans will probably still turn on him if he goes, because we've seen them do that before, and they'll probably do it again. But it looks like probably Real Madrid, but you never know. You never know. He might in the Premier League. I think it's difficult, and I think he's always think it's half of his heart. He was always a bit of a Real Madrid fan, wasn't he? So I suspect he'll go there. But, Bellingham, Mbappé, Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, Chalmers.
It's not fair, man. Mendy at left back, the young.
They're going to be good, even if they're not quite there yet. I think he'd complete them, wouldn't he?
He would complete them.
The only thing is, though, Vinicius Junior, they kind of play in the same spot.
Yeah, but if you look though, Mbappe's sort of been playing as a number 9. He always hogs the left.
I remember having a conversation with Pochettino, and he said he wants to play on the left. He really, really likes to play on the left. He doesn't really want to play anywhere else. So
imagine though, you got Vinicius running from out to in, and you've got Mbappe running from into. Oh my God, it's terrifying though.
It's terrifying, but it's also quite exciting for football to see that kind of thing. Even though it pains me a little bit as a former Barcelona man. I want to go on about the Championship a little bit, if I may, Micah, because
indeed,
my team Leicester at 12 points clear at the top, 2-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday. Jamie Vardy scored 6 goals in his last 7 games. I think the Foxes are on course for possibly the biggest ever Championship points total, if they keep going. And again, I'm going to touch wood because I don't want to jinx Leicester of all things. Reading, of course, hold that record at the moment with 106 points. Almost 20 years ago, 2005, 2006. Leicester have 78 points with 14 games remaining. If they won all their games from here, which obviously won't happen, they get 120 points.
Wow!
Exciting times for the Foxes. See, going down wasn't the end of the world that it felt like it was at the time.
You're rejuvenated. You go down, know exactly what you need. You come back, and you come back even stronger. But since you're mentioning Leicester, I've got to give a little shout out to Leeds. 4-0 win away at Swansea. Snuck into second place. I know Southampton have got a game in hand, but it's looking good for the old Yorkshire lads.
Well, they're perfect in 2024, haven't they, in the league?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really flying, Leeds. Southampton were flying as well. They were 25 games unbeaten, and their run ended with a 3-1 loss at Bristol City. Ipswich, who'd been brilliant in the kind of first half of the season, petered out a little bit, but they had a really good win last night. We're doing this on Thursday morning. So, it's certainly tight for second spot. Should Leicester maintain their consistency, they surely will win the title. But it also shows you that the 3 relegated teams from last season, Leicester, Southampton and Leeds, are the teams that are going the best at the moment. The gulf is ever greater, do you feel, Micah?
Yeah, we've spoken about this. It's tough, isn't it? With the parachute payments and everything, and if you keep the right players, if you look at Leicester's squad, they've got a Premier League squad, really, haven't they? Leeds, and then Daniel Farke's come in, and a really good job. They've been consistent, a few blips early on in the season. It's always going to be difficult for the teams trying to compete with that. But I mean, the Championship is just bonkers. It's crazy. 1 minute, you'll win a game at home and you'll go away and you lose. It's entertaining to say the least.
Well,
but
46 league games for a start.
That's what I mean. Trying to be fit for that. Yeah. And Saturday, Tuesday, rotation, and then it's tough for them. But that's what makes it so entertaining. But yeah, it is becoming difficult for the teams that are who are trying to compete with the teams that have just come down, just because of that quality that they have.
I must say, Maresca at Leicester's done a good job. They play really, really attractive football. Obviously, they have to play against teams that apply a low block on a lot of those occasions, and they're patient, they keep it. A couple of really good signings. They press high. I think Harry Winks has been a fabulous signing. I think it cost 8 million, which is not a lot of money for an England international. He's been excellent. Dewsbury Hall, superb. Madavidi, excellent. Fatawu, if you're looking for a young player, he's only about 18 years old, has been exceptional on the right wing. So I just wanted to use the opportunity when I can to a little bit of a mention for Leicester. But what I want to do, Micah, is finish with what could be, well, definitely, surely must be a Puskas contender for goal of the year. An ex-Aston Villa man as well, Micah. We sent you the clip of the goal because you hadn't seen it. It's from Jaden Philogene, who plays for Hull City. And it's an extraordinary goal. And for those of you that are listening, you must look it up. It was... He nutmegs someone and then he chops back, and then the most audacious Rabona in the top corner. What a goal, eh, Mike? I sent you the clip.
Oh, it was ridiculous. When you showed me it this morning, I was like, wow. It's just, that's what I like, though. A little bit of freedom, a little bit of flair to even try it. The audacity to do that and have the confidence to do it is more what I liked. And then the execution was just... sublime. What a goal that was.
To get a nutmeg, a chop and a Rabona in one goal. I mean, it's got all... Yeah. I mean, that's got a chance. Would you?
Puskas, it's there. It's what it has to be, because to get all three, like you said, it's so difficult to do. But it was controlled. It's not like he meant to do it, Gaz, you know? That was the one, you know. But sometimes, you know, like when someone gets a meg or they get a chop and it was like a little bit of a ricochet, but everything was clean and tidy. Yeah, it was.
I don't know
fantastic.
About you. I mean, I know we're just talking about English football here, and there'll be great goals scored elsewhere and in little leagues and all sorts of things that qualify for this. But if you were just asking the question between that and Garnacho's overhead kick, I think I'd actually go with the Rabona.
I think Garnacho's overhead side volley kick, whatever you want to call it, bicycle, I think more people could do that. I don't think enough people could get the meg, the chop, and the rebut all in one. And I think that's harder to do. So I'm going to say that wins my goal of the year so far.
Do you know what? It's a lovely way to finish by agreeing with one another on something. That's all we've got time for. Great to see you back, Micah. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll be back next week. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Have a good weekend.